and welcome to the Town of Winchester Planning Board meeting for June 6, 2023. Just a heads up that we are being recorded thanks to WinCam, and also, oh, I'm sorry, I do have to click the record button here. Hold on a sec, let me start that all over again.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the June 6, 2023 Planning Board meeting. We are being recorded thanks to WinCam. Thank you, WinCam, as well as on Zoom. If you don't wish to be recorded, please turn off your video and your microphone. We are trying to prevent Zoom bombers, so we are only allowing certain people to be able to speak freely without without requesting. So if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. All of the board members should be able to speak as is our recording secretary, Nancy Pocari. So let me officially get the meeting off, and let's do a roll call vote. Leaching Scott.
Present.
Gary Layton.
Present.
Nick Rosettos.
Present.
And Sally Dale.
Present.
And we are joined by Nancy Pocari, our recording secretary, as well as our regular Richard Leaf, who is our rep from the Chamber of Commerce and also is going to be presenting something as part of a ZBA petition this evening. So our agenda today has actually changed a little bit. So the 910 Main Street redevelopment that's supposed to occur at 7:50, they were unable to make it this evening, so we're going to have to reschedule that. And we are now joined by our assistant town engineer, Brian Mantor. Okay, so that is so that gives us a little more time to go through open meeting, through our meeting minutes and our town day debrief. Sorry to disappoint those who were here for that presentation. So in terms of our updates, Sally and I did work to get the for our interim town planner, so technically we can't call them an interim town planner because that would mean they would be taking on all of the roles of the real town planner. And so they are now called the temporary planning department assistant. And this is these are all magic words in order so that we don't, because otherwise we'd have to go through a lot more, and we are not planning on them doing more than essentially assistant town planner role. So that, I believe it should have gone out. I was about to search on the town's website for that, it should have gone out hopefully this week, and also been sent out to all of the standard places that are that our town planner, full town planner position came in. And I'm just looking, and it planning assistant temporary. It was posted as of June 2nd. Oh, okay. And it closes July 7th. So the other thing that is, we have had another applicant for our senior town planner role that just came in today. So the town planner search committee has requested that we essentially have rolling meetings to determine if they're of interest. So I sent that out to them today, and we'll probably have a meeting soon. We had the person who wanted to have a dog grooming establishment in town center has reached out again to see where we are on that process. And to be honest, I thought we had come up with that we were going to say applied for a personal services special permit on that. So I will reach out to them, and I believe, unless someone else has a different recollection, I think that's what we decided to do.
That will get them what they're looking for, I guess. That seems like the most direct way to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's within our power and control.
yeah. And everything else that I have, I think can wait until later in the evening when we get to those subject matters. Any other updates from the board?
I think I was able to connect Ken Pruitt, our sustainability director, with the Acera School to see if there's any financial incentives that they can find to make sustainability decisions in the design. And I haven't heard how it went, but I think they were able to connect with each other. So I'm excited to hear what comes of that.
Yeah, I'm uncertain how that works with Ken's role. Is the sustainability director mostly associated with town projects? How does that work when they're working with?
He just advises. He can just look and sort of say, hey, have you thought about this? Do you know about this incentive to make this change? So it's strictly informational. And I chatted with him before, and he's happy to do it for some of the projects that might be interested in hearing options. So I thought Acera's community would be really interested in what he might have to offer. So I thought that would be a good pilot, and I hope they find some good ideas.
I think that's a good connection that you made, Carrie.
Yeah.
I've been working with LWILE about getting the ADU permit process implemented online, and so he's been working on that, and we're just I think it's going to be a rolling process, and it can change, over time. But he knows of 3 people at least interested, and so he just wants to get it going. And we're going to check with town council about some of the qualifications and whether or not we're doing right by the town.
That's
Cool.
great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, I Ching. It's big.
Any other updates? If not, let's swing right into the town day debrief. And I think that Sally and I are warmed up by now. It got really cold on Saturday.
Was brutal.
It was very cold. Sally, do you wanna lead off?
So I Ching, I sent to the planning board literally less than 10 minutes before this meeting 2 emails. One is a zip file that's got the posters that we made, and the other is the signups and the comments.
Let's take the signups off, please. No personal information.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, when we refer to it, I can just talk about what because I put 2 things in one email. One was their signups and the other was their stickies. Big thanks to Carrie for recommending that we do an interactive display. So I haven't actually opened up the zip file since I sent it, but I thought we would just go through it really quickly. I'm not particularly proud of the graphics, and I want to say that this was a really huge learning experience for me about how you plan an outreach information booth. It's not at all a surprise to hear me say less is more. And pictures are better than words. And so both of those caveats emerge from me not doing that.
So I'm going to interrupt Sally. I think you did an amazing job. And so I think you should, Sally, between Friday
you left at noonish.
I left. Sally and I usually have a morning meeting on Fridays to discuss planning board things. And between noonish on Friday and approximately 7 a.m. on Saturday, Sally and her husband Dennis came up with a whole slew of poster boards and such. So I think we owe you a huge debt of gratitude, Sally. So please, I think you did a great job. So.
Okay, so stop flagellating myself, but I still,
Yes. All
but
right,
I
we
still absolutely learned so much, and I have huge respect, which I already had, for people who specialize in community outreach. It's a really, really artful thing.
I don't know, I Ching, can you open up that zip file and maybe show some of the posters that Sally came up with?
See if it actually worked. I was so rushing.
I mean, it showed up in my email as a whole slew of that separate PDFs, but maybe
Oh, it did?
Maybe it automatically unfolded them for me.
Yeah.
So, nice. Oh.
I Ching, you're muted.
This is going to take me a while, so you guys can keep
Okay.
talking.
So
I've got them right here. So if you'd like, I can take over the sharing.
Oh yeah. Or
Alyssa.
which one do you want to show?
Oh,
Okay, I cannot extract them.
Yeah, I can
Why don't you
extract
share?
them. Hold on one second. I seem
Having
to,
the same problem.
well, let me get back to Zoom.
because I could actually bring them up. Let me just go into that part of our home
No,
network.
let me share. And let me share desktop one. I have no idea why it's doing that.
Winchester, Pound A,
Okay, so this
Pound A
is,
posters. Okay, so I have them.
oops, where the heck is it? Here it is. Okay, so we can start up with so this was an informational. Can everyone see this?
So these were 1117, I guess, and or maybe a little bit bigger. I forget the sizes. It was such a flurry, but I created I cobbled together from the Massachusetts general laws a statement of what the planning board does, and mentioned 4 big projects that we have, and extracted from the master plan this graphic and created a link to scan or what's it called?
Yep, it's a QR code.
Thank you. And then the facing page was talking about our master plan work and the master plan implementation committee and their charge and their, let me see if I can make this fit my screen, fit window. Let me just make this, yeah. What yeah, it doesn't really fit my window, but that's okay. And then what they're doing. And Richard, I think Rich Rowan is here, right?
Rich Rowan is here.
Yeah, and he and I had talked about the importance of seeing if we could utilize Town Day as a recruitment opportunity. And that was a great idea that none of us had time to really execute on. But I think a lot of people were surprised to learn from our booth that we have a master plan, because 2020 was 130 years ago, believe it or not. So anyway, I think that a lot of people were psyched to hear about this. And as far as the priorities go, there was 2 of these priorities posters. North Main was one, and then the other one was Holton Swanton Cross.
Let me see if I can.
HS, yeah, project overview, that one.
Let me try to put them side by side here. Just, oh wait, what happened to them? Where is it?
And so I'll read from my email so that we don't violate the privacy of people's email addresses. So let me just go into that really quickly, right here. And, oh, okay, hold on. Sent. So I had seeded the board with yellow stickies so that people knew they could write ideas. So these comments do not include my seeding, if you will. So For Holton, Swanton, and Cross, there were 6 concerns that were mentioned. Traffic in and out of Acera at certain hours, and having more green in that part of town, and wanting a traffic light. And I didn't have a chance to ask the person where they thought that should be, but I can imagine it could be at the intersection of Holton and Cross. And there was a call for better road safety and more street signs and stop signs. And then there was an ask for more ice cream shops. So, you know, town day is a festive occasion. North Main Street, people had a lot more thoughts, and by the handwriting, I think maybe 3 of these came from the same person, but they felt strongly enough to put it up there. So people asked for separated bike lanes and paths. They asked for shuttle service and to continue decorative center business district lighting all the way up North Main Street. And I did send this list to both Josh and to Michael. And I apologize for showing people's private emails in an email that went out to them. So I'm sorry, but I don't think they're going to abuse that. And then somebody wrote 3+ stories for new buildings, and being the priority. The question was, what are your priorities? And their priority was town character and green spaces. Another person wrote, eliminate parking and eliminate one-family zoning. And someone wrote, improve communication. So that has to do with outreach, I assume. And someone wrote, build more housing. And someone else wrote, more housing, in different handwriting. And someone wrote, bike parking and neighborhood stores and reduce pollution, more bikes, more public transit, less car dependent. So all of that, possibly with the exception of the building height, is something that we're all quite familiar with. And so that's just about the stickies and the signs. Did we finish going? I'm going back to my Zoom. And so I don't know if they're not graphic tour de force, that's for sure. But it's good. It's done.
I think they're fine. I think the other one was the core themes.
Oh, yes. And this I extracted from the, it's a little bit bigger than your window, Dia. Can you, so that number 4 doesn't read, but that's okay.
It seems to be read on my window.
Okay, so, and then it was side by side with pictures. And if you almost had them a second ago. Scroll down.
Yeah, I can, let me make this deal and you can see it.
So we made pretty pictures because we could, and Dennis put a shadow on them to make them jump off the page because he could. And the bottom one is the farmer's market, and someone walked up to him and said, "That's my photograph." So we didn't actually credit photos. So again, another casualty of doing things at the last minute. But so, and I don't know what else to say about that. But as far as the conversations at the booth, I Ching, you visited, and Carrie, you stopped by, and Diab, you lost your voice. So I think we could have an open conversation about the conversations.
Yeah, I think that would be really valuable. The thing that didn't surprise me was how many people asked about what was happening at Washington and Swanton, because that's on a lot of people's minds. And I was like, well, the planning board has nothing to do with that, but here's where we're at with that. There were a couple of people there were very few people who were talking about the MBTA multifamily by right stuff. We were visited by State Senator Pat Jalen, who did ask us about that, but she would know. So,
right. And I think the 3A thing, we haven't really launched our outreach, and I Ching sent some great materials from Arlington that says that they've put a ton of effort already into readiness. So good for them. It's great.
Yeah, I was really impressed with some of their backtracking, and that they had, data, they had minutes, they had a whole sheet ready for a town meeting with questions and answers, and a kit for people to take with them to their neighbors if they wanted to have a discussion and how to lead the discussion. I remember when we spoke with Kelly Lenema that she did mention that they were doing a lot of those kinds of outreaches already.
Yeah, meeting in a box, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. And
We-
reading
we-
some of the minutes, I was like, oh, Kelly.
We did- Carrie may remember that we did meeting in a box for the master plan.
I do.
Yeah,
That's
we-
cool.
yeah.
I don't
Um,
remember how
so-
well used it was, but I do remember putting it together.
Yeah. So
So I
each in
think
what,
that-
well, you
yeah.
were there. Oops, sorry.
No, go on. What's your question?
Oh, my question was, what were your interactions with people like at the booth while you were there?
There were with people that I knew already who were involved already with some of the things that we in some of these meetings already. But some people who I knew from neighbors and stuff, and they just didn't know what was going on really. They were sort of a little, I think, overwhelmed with what the information, but like, impressed that we were doing something, like, right, that there was like planning for this. And so, but I'm not sure how much they wanted to engage in it. It was like, oh, cool. All right. But it's a little bit like too much information in some ways.
Yes. And I think, there was this last minute cut of any 3A information from what we were putting together late on Friday. And part of that was because I don't think that we as a board have had a chance to grapple with the talking points, and I'm so excited to really dive into all the links that you sent from Arlington, because maybe they did a ton of work for us already.
Yeah.
But it seemed really premature to put anything up there about that. Carrie made a really good sign-up slip, and those 10 people who I emailed you, their names, and I put after their names you had 3 check boxes: North Main Street, Holton, Swanton Industrial Areas Cross, and the MBT3A, and people variously, almost evenly distributed between all of those things, either one of them or 2 of them or all 3 of them. So people are clearly interested in our work, even though a 10 is a small sample. I attribute that in large part to the fact that it was windy, rainy, and cold.
Yeah, I was, there were a number of regulars who stopped by our booth all the time. Thank you, Rich. Rich was always coming by to give us moral support. Richard Rohan, I should say, not Richard Leaf. Richard Leaf wasn't there, but he probably would have given us moral support. But there were some new faces, and they were really interested in overall planning, not just they were just, someone showed up, and a number of people who were fairly new to town, 3 to 5 years in town, who were just really understanding, some of how town government works and what the different bodies are. And so I thought that was great. It was good to talk to people and bring them up to speed at some level. I think that one of the things that we can think about in terms of all of this material is thinking about handouts. And we didn't really have much time to even think about what we would put in.
Well, the ADU handouts were on the table, and thank you to Suzanne Gill for printing and folding them. But I think they didn't have enough of a profile to get used. But the yellow the yellow sign-up slips that Carrie made were very.
Yeah, we were able to pull those out. Yeah, I think the ADU trifles sort of it was very windy on Saturday, so we a lot of things were underneath weights just so that we would still have them at the end of the day. Sally, do you want to talk a little bit more about your interactions with people?
I was mostly just explaining what our priorities are and wanting to know what theirs are with regards to these 2 study areas, and emphasizing to people that these are both recognized as what did they call them, emerging opportunity zones or something like that in the master plan, and that the planning board has on its plate to actively study and make recommendations on those 2 specific places. So people were really interested to hear about it, and they talked about the problems of traffic, and they talked about the problems of safety, pedestrian safety in both locations. That was the big thing that people were really concerned about, traffic and pedestrian safety. So I don't know, it's kind of a whirlwind after 4 hours of sleep. I mean, everybody was very happy to see what we were doing. And I have to say, I was responding on some level to my experience of learning that some people in town don't understand what a planning board is, what our planning board is working on, and where are we at with the work that we're doing. So I kind of used that as my call to action for communicating, but I would have loved more professional help. That would have been cool. And we will have professional outreach help, and more thought partner, but we did what we did. It's done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's the sort of, I don't want to call it remedial, but there's, you have to get beyond that initial barrier. What does the planning board do? How does it fit in with all of these things? And then you can start talking about the projects. So I think we have to, there's sort of this ongoing education, continuing education about the planning board's roles. And then I was not surprised, but there is a lot of, I don't want to call it misinformation, because it's people, for instance, thought that, a lot of people thought that the Waterfield project had been killed, and they didn't realize that it was still going on, because they heard about the vote from town, which overturned town meeting's vote, and they thought that was the end of that. So they were surprised that Waterfield was still going. A lot of them didn't know anything about what was happening at Washington and Swanton.
Right.
They thought that it was stuck there. There was, a couple of people who, they were very upset about certain aspects, but they were upset because the information they had was incomplete. And
Right.
so, there were people who were upset about, like what the whole history of Washington and Swanton, and whether it was the town's fault versus just the fact that it's been stuck in this, purgatory, for it was limbo for a while that really had nothing to do with the town. So I don't know how we solve that, other than, it's part of the other problem is we can tell people what we do and maybe inform them about the planning board, but how do we reach out and get all this other information that maybe only town meeting members would know about, because they're the only ones who get the information about, when the town got, the eminent domain for Washington and Swanton, or
Right.
anything about the Waterfield Task Force and how that moved forward after the referendum in town. So there's just an awful lot of, I'm just going to use the word ignorance, and it's not a pejorative, it's just people who don't know.
Yeah, it's a
And
lack of awareness.
It's a lack of awareness. It's just, so I don't know how we solve that, but that's a big issue.
I have a thought on that, Diab, if I can share it with our board. Coming out of the Communications Study Committee, there has emerged a second separate group of residents who are creating a 501c3 nonprofit organization to be the engine behind a citizen journalism project in Winchester. I had reached out to one of the people on that and said, swing by our booth on Town Day, and let's just do a quick chat about how the planning board can leverage your emerging platform. She didn't have a chance to do that, and that was fine because it was freezing and everybody was talking through blue lips. But I do want to say that it's very encouraging to me that we have a communications citizen journalism effort emerging in town. I also am very encouraged that we have the money in the budget to do community outreach. So one of the things the citizen journalism thing can do is to really promote participating in the citizen outreach and the community outreach exercises. So I think that we're on just the very front end of having ways to communicate if we can jump in and activate them.
So that is an excellent segue, Sally, into something that we talked about, and that is one of the things that the planning board doesn't have is we don't have a lot of signage, as it were. So for instance, our booth was, people had to come up close and read what was on Sally's boards because we don't have a big sign to hang over the booth saying, hey, this is the planning board, this is the planning department.
Like a banner, you mean?
Like a banner. And so we have some money left in our budget, and we have more money than I think we thought we had. And I think it would be something where I think it would be useful to get some sort of a banner, because I think that the planning board needs to have a more, we need to have a presence at some of these public gatherings. So for instance, last year for the Trees Working Group, we showed up at the farmers market several times, and we had a nice banner for the Trees Working Group, and it was pretty, so it was great advertising, and people showed up and they said, hey, what's going on? So if we, hire a graphic designer to create a banner for us that would fit across, a standard 10-foot booth, I think that would be a good use of our money for outreach.
Not only to get it graphically designed, but also produced on nice heavy stuff, heavy material, grommets to fight the wind and so on.
Yeah, the standard banner stuff. And the other thing we need to think about, I think, is just having a standard set of materials, not simply just the special purpose ones for the matters at hand, but something which, kind of describes what the planning board does and what the zoning bylaws do and how the town's zoning works, just so that people have some clue as to what this all means. So that would be just something we could always have at hand, that we could always have at our booth, and that we could hand to people if they're in a rush to leave.
So this is very much about our board as one of the 87 boards and committees in town or whatever, but ours being one of the elected boards, taking very seriously and taking action on better communication, which came out of the whole communication study committee, which itself was born out of the protest against the town meeting vote for Waterfield. So it's all a continuum leading to people are confused, or they are unaware, or they're misinformed. And we can lead the way as much as we can without a town planner and trying to do better official communications, like strategy and materials and like what are our objectives in communicating. And maybe we just hire a communications consultant to do that for us.
So I think that there are, we need to think about, this all comes down to when our money disappears at the end of the fiscal year. So there's, I think, a long-term strategy and a long-term thing that a communications person would help us with. But that would have to start after July 1st, because anything that we want to do now has to be done by the end of the fiscal year, which is in less than, it's in about 3 weeks.
So have we spent all of our money?
We have not.
Let's do it. I think one really key thing that has already been really excellently designed is the master plan. There are 2 packets, right? The shorter one is really beautiful. I think we should just produce a bunch more and have them at whatever table that we're at and hand them out, because I don't think that people understand that the master plan was really a lot of hard work, and we're trying to aim for it,
So maybe like a master plan light, because I think
there already is a master plan light. It's like whatever
it is. It's on a link on the.
Yes, but
I know
like,
it's a link, but when we're physically present at these things, it's nice to pass them out so people actually have a physical copy.
Absolutely. And I had actually meant to bring my copy of the master plan and the action plan, and it's just as well I didn't. The table
but it was already expertly designed, and we paid for that, or the town paid for that. And so it was, designed to be a pamphlet that was handed out and easy to look through physically.
Wow.
And for those people who really want to, I think that would be a really wonderful thing. Let's just use our money so that we don't have to fight for, you know, when people say you didn't use up your money.
I'm a
Right.
little confused because the two documents I'm aware of. for the
I
master
have
plan,
it here.
There's one that's like 40 pages.
No.
And then there's one then there's the action plan, which is like much longer. So is there
There
one
is,
that-
so here's one of the things I did as part of this exercise in making the booth posters is I followed every link on our planning board page that relates to master plan. And it's a bit of a tangle right now. And it would be really nice to sit down with one of you.
So this is the one that is a little lighter, and I don't know if this is how it was meant to be.
No,
Yeah, it was meant to be this incredibly long,
So
wide.
if we were
No,
able to
it's-
maybe shrink it down so that it's like a 8.5 by 11, but in this format.
It's- Yeah, it's actually designed to be an 8.5 by 11.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
it
you
works
can't really,
Yeah, it's designed to be 8.5 by 11. It just there was confusion as to how to get it to print correctly. But I think the later versions have it as an 8.5 by 11, but it's still like 20 or it's like 40 pages. Or
yeah,
something.
I
It's a
know.
very
but it's a nice
graphically
physical
intense.
thing to have at, even if it's like a laminated copy for people to be able to look through and be like, oh, there was actually a physical master plan.
I love that idea of laminating the report and having it in a binder that
This
people can
one,
go
of
through.
course,
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
the
But do we
heavier one.
want to?
And this should always be present wherever we
Yeah.
are.
But I think one of the other things I'm thinking of is sort of like an even smaller one that people could take with them. Because
Yes.
a lot of people will not be willing to take a 40-page document.
That would be amazing. If we can find a graphic designer who did this and have a shortened version that people can just take as a pamphlet.
That was
Maybe
Jen
have a bunch of
Goldson's.
those.
That was
Yeah.
Jen
Yeah.
Goldson. Yeah.
So why don't we do this? So for those, we still have a little bit of time to talk about this. Why don't we, why don't we take a vote of the board to talk about moving forward with hiring a graphic designer to produce a banner and then some flyers and maybe a master plan light. And the idea would be to try to get these done so that we could present them at the farmer's market. And the farmer's market opens up on June 10th. And there's always, I don't want to say there's always slots, but last year they were very kind enough to give us slots in their booths several times during the summer.
Oh, yeah. I think we must have been there, I want to say 5 times over the course of the summer. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something.
and it's there is nothing like meeting all of the town residents and talking to them to give you an idea of what the word on the street is. So
Well, I
Anyway.
have to say that I did most of those with help or not. And it would be really good if we could commit as a group that we could have 2 people sign up for any one of those days that we go, and maybe don't do the whole day. You sign up for 3 hours. The farmer's market goes from what, 9 to 3, 8 to,
yeah, I've forgotten all.
I know, I don't remember. But Fred is very generous to the planning board with regards to the tent and the table, and it's a great opportunity for outreach. And so your suggestion about a motion was that we hire a graphic designer. And I would say that we hire a communications consultant and graphic designer, because they're going to say, if this is what you're trying to accomplish, these are the best tools for doing that. And I'm looking at I Ching as I say this, but you can't tell. Because you have such good ideas about the physical entity of communications, not the virtual.
I want to keep it simple, and perhaps maybe we can just make a motion to hire a graphic designer and hopefully, a communications person, but to do these three things, the banner, some kind of primer on what planning board does, and then a master plan light.
Is this, now, would this specifically be for funds that are going to expire at the end of our fiscal year, or is this just in
Yes.
general?
I
No,
think it's
this-
part.
So it would
use up
be,
money, yeah,
so we would have to do it,
immediately.
right, with the right timing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so as long as it's under $10,000, and I imagine this would be well under $10,000, we would be able to do this without having to go out for a bid. Or we wouldn't need, like 3 competitive bids. We would just be able to, reach out to someone and see if they were able to do it.
So the last time that we had a graphic design need, the planning board was part of the tree working group, and they hired Reagan McCain. And I was wondering if anybody here would like to reach out to her and ask her.
So I have a motion on the, I made a motion, right? So should we?
Yeah,
do that?
yeah. I think we should, do you want to attach a money? I think we have to attach an actual dollar amount. So I would say 3,000, which seems like a lot, but we wouldn't have.
No, 3,000 could include the printing costs too.
So it's the banner, the flyers, not master plan light. It would just be the banner and some flyers, right?
We might, I think we could probably do a master plan light as well.
Wow. Okay.
I mean,
And that includes design and production?
Yeah. Well, I think
The
with your
biggest-
$5,000, I think $5,000 could cover some of it, and just
I-
give a little leeway. But we're not using up to 10, and we probably should think about how else to use the other 5. But something that is very durable, can always be present, something laminated, and then more flimsy ones that you can give away if people want them.
Yeah, I mean, production costs, I think, are pretty minimal, except for a banner. A banner, I think, will run us several $100s at least.
Well, the flyers can be 1 or 2 colors, and that makes them fairly inexpensive. But if we get into color photographs and we
It
get
gets
into the
expensive.
level of
It's
graphic
really-
complexity, it gets
That's-
much more.
Yeah, so that's why I would suggest that we take a value which is reasonable, that would accomplish, let's remember
Okay.
that I think our entire budget that we set up for outreach for MBTA 3A for our next fiscal year is something like $5,000.
So
So
what are we going to do with the 7 if we don't use all the 10? Just to remind you, it's already 8:01 and we have 8:15 for Cross Street soon.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if we say 3,000 now, there's going to be 7,000 left over. That's going to expire in 25 days. So
I don't know how, if we have, so I don't know.
can we just say a $5,000 and then that I'm going to propose that we say $5,000 to cover design and production.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Let us, any further discussion?
So one of the things that we've learned is that there's very minor leeway in terms of spending some of the fiscal year money into July. So if we were to increase it to 10,000, we would use up the money that we have, and some of it would roll into the new year in terms of producing. Is that right, Diab?
There are, yeah, I don't know, the rules are fairly strict. And if you start a project and if there are delays, then there is some leeway for extending it into the fiscal year to finish. But if we're just starting a project right now, we know that, we know the fiscal year's coming up. So unless there's some sort of production delay, I don't think that.
So if I amend this and say, this marketing will be for these, public relations things as well as into our Main Street work, I mean, could that then give us some leeway to go into the next year?
The town is fairly strict on this, so I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I don't
that,
know if we can.
I think that, we're doing this at the last minute, so I think that why don't we keep it to a level of effort that we know can be completed by June 31st. And then we do have monies in our next budget that we can use for this.
Yeah.
So
I retract my suggestion about increasing the money, and the motion stands.
I mean, I would suggest that we, I think $5,000 is, why don't we do $5,000 by this time, by our next meeting, which we still have to discuss when our next meeting will be. Hopefully we'll have been able to get an estimate. For some reason, I can't admit Lynn Sweet. Oh, she is in here. Silly interface. So I think
Great.
Let's take the vote on this, and
Yes.
then we'll have a better idea. So I forget each, and did your value was 5,000?
Yes.
Okay, so
Just
the motion,
say the motion again.
I make a motion to use 5,000 from our marketing budget for the purpose of hiring a graphic designer to help us design and produce products to help us promote the board, including signage for outdoor tables and Winchester master plan information, as well as remedial information on what planning board does.
Thank you.
And that's the one that Carrie seconded.
I
Okay.
stand by my second.
okay. And so let's do a roll call vote. I Ching,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, so we will take suggestions for graphic designers to reach out to, see whether they have the bandwidth to deal with this. And then we should probably also have, if we want to set up a mini team to look at what we want in these documents, I think that would be really useful. And we'll do that offline. And if we end up requiring to post it because it's a quorum, we'll just do that. So thank you all very much. We are.
So we've skipped doing the minutes, and we have an update from a applicant at 8:15. Can we do minutes in 9 minutes?
We can, why don't we start doing the minutes and let's see where we get. So our first set of minutes is for April 24th, 2023.
No edits.
Are there any concerns or comments?
Done.
If none, then I would entertain a motion to approve meeting minutes for Monday, April 24th, 2023.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call vote. Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay. Our next is for Thursday, April 27th.
I had no edits.
I thought I had one edit on, or did I have an edit on the next one? I had an edit on the next one. Okay, any concerns or comments on this one? If not, I welcome a motion to approve the minutes Thursday, April 27th, 2023.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
and Diab says aye as well. And then I Ching, if you could put up the one from Monday, May 1st, because I think I have an edit on that one. So the next one is Monday, May 1st, 2023. And my edit is under number 1. Chair proposed requesting the full amount at town meeting tonight, and it was 80,000, not 70,000.
I had the same edit. Thank you, Diab.
Okay. So any other comments or concerns?
None.
Okay, I'd welcome a motion to approve the minutes of May 1st, 2023 as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, second. Thank you, I Ching. Roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
I say aye as well. And our last set of minutes is from Tuesday, May 9th at 2023. Are there any edits or comments?
I just had a correction on the last item, to correct the spelling of my name, by adding an S at the end.
Which
Paragraph 8.
paragraph 8?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if you could.
Then I guess there's also a, well, I guess if you were to, let's see, well, that, yeah, correct there. And then under the PB comments on page 3, almost all the way down, the apostrophe should be after the S.
Yep.
Right where Ms. Dale is perplexed by the decision of the HC, right, 4 lines below that.
Right. The apostrophe is after the S.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also the same edit needs to be done further up the page, starting with Ms. Layton, the need for
Yep.
housing is important. So Nick, if you would send those edits on to Nancy, that would be appreciated.
I have, but it's 2, Deb, but I can wait.
Yes, go ahead.
In number 1 updates under B, the town has received 5 responses. What at this point, I think we had voted to reestablish the search committee. Had we not?
I think we had, I think we decided I don't know whether we reestablished or reestablished. Well, the old search committee was definitely gone.
That's why I was saying reestablish the existing search committee, because somewhere in what I just skimmed tonight was a vote by the board to not change the composition of that. I just don't know.
So I don't, I don't know that it doesn't bother me. Whichever way it goes, it's not.
Well, I just didn't want anyone to read this and think that it was our vote or our preference to change the composition of the search committee, and it most certainly was not.
Well, we voted to create a new search committee with the same members as the old one.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm fine with that edit if that's, okay. I don't know if they'll, I don't have a problem either way. It all comes down to whatever, if Nancy says that's exactly the words we said, then we need to.
Okay.
Can I interject here?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Nancy.
I believe at that update was at the beginning of the meeting. And that's when you said you need to establish a new search committee.
Okay, good.
Leave it later.
Okay.
That you actually determined to keep the same search committee.
That's really helpful. I had one other edit on page 3, Chair Jarius, bottom of the page.
Mm-hmm.
It says, this is the first building in the CBD to request a change. This is the first historic building in the CBD.
Yeah. To
request a change. And
but is that what Diab said?
I believe that is what I said. I think I was trying to establish that there is a lot of concern with the very first thing.
Right. And I didn't have any other, I just had a question on 1C updates. On page 1, the Church Street project is having its second meeting before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And can you just remind me what Church Street is that? Is that the bank, Santander Bank?
No, that's, oh wait, no, that's the Cross Street project.
Oh, so 1C should say Cross?
Yeah, it's 8789 Cross Street.
Okay.
So
87.
that is, thanks for pointing that out. So that's an edit.
I get confused. That's all I had. And Nick,
Okay.
thank you for catching all those.
So
This is a
Nancy,
very-
so Sally, would you be so kind as to send those edits on to Nancy?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much.
Do we have to
Can I-
vote on these?
Yes, we do. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2023 as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie? Did we lose you, Carrie?
Sorry, I was muted.
No problem. Sally?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And Diab says aye as well. If I go backwards from my last one, I always lose people. Okay. So I think we are done with that. And so now we are right on time to begin a presentation. This is an update on the local initiative project at 8789 Cross Street. And we have with us, let's see, Lynn Sweet is here. And I think you should be able to speak. Where are you at, Lynn? I know you're here somewhere. Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Sorry, I have to find you in this maze of people. So is there someone else on your team with you tonight?
I was hoping that Mario would be here, but it may just be me tonight.
Okay, there's someone here called Alan. But that's probably not associated with you. Okay.
Nope. I didn't know if you wanted to bring that plan up again.
Do you wanna,
You want me to share?
yeah, would you prefer to control the screen, Lynn, or?
Give me a second to, yeah, no, that's beautiful. So thank you, Lynn Sweet, LDS Consulting Group, Wellesley, Massachusetts, for the record, the 40B consultant for Mario, on behalf of the 87 to 89 Cross Street, 40B. So we have had several meetings with the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think we may have had 3 or 4 already. Basically, we had an opening meeting where we presented. Then we had a meeting that was focused on the redesign that you see in front of you. And then we recently had a meeting to go over the civil engineering and the traffic matters. So we've made a lot of progress. We believe we're going to be having one more meeting to answer a couple of questions asked by the board, as well as close out the civil matter. And believe it or not, starting to discuss the decision. So the biggest change since you last saw this plan was the basically trying to make the structure that is facing the street more residential. And so this has resulted in taking out the parking spaces that we had up at Cross Street and pushing the building back towards the property line to allow for 2 spaces along the driveway right there. Yep. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. And allowing for, we put some trim on that side of the building, kind of over the doorway. We've done some landscaping. So just to make it a little bit more, I don't know, just to make it a better entrance to the property. And now all of that work was done by Chris, who is the architect. So the result of moving the buildings around was the need to take another pass at the stormwater design. So the board was happy with the changes that we made. We also updated the landscaping plan, which I think you might have as well.
So the 3 parking spaces that are in the back, those are also created by virtue of moving the building forward to the street?
No, those were always there.
Oh, they were. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, those 3 were always there, and we had 2 at the front. So, that does not look like the current landscape plan. Hang on.
Oh,
See if I have it here.
Yeah, we got a couple of different plans.
Um,
I
that
didn't
is the
notice
current
that.
landscape plan,
I
but
didn't notice that. We got different plans.
Well, we got.
yeah,
du-
that
I-
is,
I got duplicates in my packet, so I didn't.
what, does it say May 30th down there on the bottom? I can't
Yes.
see.
yes, it does.
Okay, so that is the, I'm sorry, that is the
It's
correct
just
plan.
turned around. And I can make it 100 degrees.
Oh, that's what it is. I'm just
Yeah.
like, that's what it is. Oh, that's
Right.
funny. No, that's okay. I was just like, I thought we had moved the buildings back to the property line.
So this is the back and this is the front now.
Thank you. Thank you. I may be losing it, but maybe not over this. So, we had an interesting request from the chair of the ZBA to remove some of the trees some of the bushes across the front so they could see the building more. First time we've ever had a request for someone to ask us to remove landscaping. So I'm not really sure where that landed. The bushes are 3 to 4 feet high. So, and they're on, I think like a 2-foot kneeling wall. So they're not gonna be, huge arborvitaes or anything like that. So it'd be interesting to have your input on that. And with regard to stormwater, there were a fair amount of comments from the town engineer, all of which have been addressed in a letter back by our engineer and a new set of plans. 90% of them were just clarification notes that were necessary, and the other 10% were conditions that need to go into the actual permit. So we did not feel that any of the comments that came in from the town's engineer we felt that all of the comments that came in from the town engineer would be able to be addressed and have been addressed already. So that's where we are. We feel that it's a better plan than we came in with the moving of the building and with the addition of the landscaping. I don't know if you want to bring up the actual, there's a visual of kind of what it would look like coming in the driveway.
Was it this?
Yeah.
Was it this?
I can bring it up.
Yeah, it's
It
not in
says
the packet
option
here.
option 2 Rev JPEG.
Yeah, it's not in
is
our
the name of
packet.
it, so it's got
electronic.
color on it. And like I said, I'm happy. I've got it open
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah,
You can open it.
why don't you take over, Lynn?
Because I think that this is really, it basically allows us to really retain the actual retaining wall. So from a good news perspective, there's not going to be as much movement of materials, which I think is always good. And so we've created, we've added in a bay window here. Even though this is a door to, I think, the sprinkler room or something like that, we gave it a little bit of dressing over it, and we added, some windows up here. So just to try and make this look more like it's an entrance kind of going in. I think it's an improvement not to have, the cars right here, as well as the small bushes along here. So we're happy. I mean, I think that's the one thing about the planning process is as you go, the projects get better. With regard to the traffic review that we had, we did provide a letter that, and we had our traffic engineer available that really spoke to 3 points. One, that the increase over what's currently there today, they probably have 6 cars going in and out, in a day, at rush hour was minimal. I think maybe like 4 cars over the course of an hour. The other thing was that the site distance triangle was exceeded what the standard is for a site distance triangle. And the last was that this driveway and the intersection closest to it are not high traffic incident areas. And that's the
Right.
information that was provided by Fuss and O'Neill, kind of those 3 points we were asked to answer, which was volume, sight lines, and safety. And the ZBA felt that the letter and having the traffic engineer available for the discussion, as well as the town's attorney, the questions were answered to their satisfaction without a need to have an outside peer reviewer hired for it.
Can I
Um,
ask a question, Lynn, about this table 1?
Yeah.
So what I'm reading is that a weekday morning peak hour, which is anywhere between, I don't know, 7 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. or whatever it is, there's only going to be 3 cars coming out of that driveway.
Yep.
How can that be when you've got 9 units and presumably at least one person is working in each of those units and going
They
off?
might be working from home. They might be walking, or they might not be, be leaving the house during those hours. Or they might be working off peak. Maybe they work at night, or maybe they work in the afternoon, or maybe they don't work. So these numbers are, and I'm very happy to put you in touch with Kathleen, who's way better versed than I am on this kind of stuff. They look at averages of, per unit kind of averages when they come up with this.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Just
and I
seems- it
think
seems encouraging.
that's an hour. It's not a 2-hour period.
Oh, I see.
So,
Okay.
so it would be
Wow.
between 7 and 8, or 8 and 9, or 7:30 and 8:30, whenever the peak
Yeah. Yeah.
is. So it's not over that entire pink. It's just that 1 hour. So maybe you have 3 people leaving from 6 to 7, 3 people leaving from 7 to 8, and 3 people leaving from like 8 to 9 is
I see.
probably a better way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And the same, and I think everyone's commutes are different now. I see rush hour starting in the afternoon at like 2:30, 3 o'clock, like as soon as the schools get out.
That's right. That's right.
So if you think of the fact that means maybe people are starting at 6 or 6:30,
So, Lynn, are you pretty much done with your presentation? Is that?
I am. We're happy with the direction that it's going. We're happy with the feedback that we've gotten and the changes we've made. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah,
on the new
I think that
materials.
at this point, I would love it if the planning board could actually come to a decision this evening on, vote for, however it goes. Typically, we do advise the ZBA, and this is coming very close to the end where the ZBA will be making their decision. So I think having the planning board's comments on this prior to that would be really useful. So I want to keep we have about 15 minutes left, so I'd like to open that up to the board. I do want to see if we get a really quick comment from our assistant town engineer, Brian Mantra. I know he's been working on this. And I do have 1 or 2 questions for Brian. So Brian, I hate to put you on the spot, but do you want to give us a very brief rundown on your concerns and how they've been addressed?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Jairus. I'm happy to be on the spot. That's what I'm here for. Yes, so the applicant had revised their stormwater model and plan, and that is currently under review. The engineer has provided feedback on the initial review memo, which was everything minus the stormwater report. I have not gotten a chance to review their feedback, but I'm confident that we'll be able to resolve and work through the observations and comments. And the last comment we have is that the engineering department still stands at a 53G consultant for traffic be recommended to the ZBA.
Okay. One of the questions that I've seen on sites like this is snow storage. Is that something that engineering looks at?
Not usually. Sometimes it might be in part of an operations and maintenance plan, and that they would not store snow on top of their infiltration system. But typically we don't look at that.
The other question I had, and this is only because I spoke with a person in the trade who had to work on a building that was really weird, is that in your report, you say a general finding is 1 water meter to be used for the entire building. So the reason I bring this up is this person worked on a multi-family unit where they had to turn off the water to the entire complex to do a repair in a single unit. And that was a horrible thing to have happen. So what does it mean to have a single water meter? Does that mean that in order to work on any one unit, you have to turn off water to the entire complex?
We're,
I don't
we're
believe
gonna-
so.
We're gonna sub-meter. We're gonna sub-meter the water and sewer for each unit,
Okay,
and they'll have their own turn-offs.
okay, good. I just, that was the
Yeah,
weirdest.
we were, you know, at first we were concerned about it, but it seems like the rule of thumb is that there is 1 meter going into the building, and then the management and developer takes on the task of sub-metering, because it's because the units now have in-unit washer and dryers, and there's no ability to collect like from a coin operated washer and dryer. The practice has become to sub-meter.
Right.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
Brian, what you've seen.
Well,
I know
yeah,
there's
what I was
another
about
big
to say,
building going up.
Lynn, is that 1 unit, 1 meter was directed by the DPW water department. And as you were saying, Chair Jarius said, and Lynn was saying, that after the meter, the plumbing would be made such that each unit would be able to be isolated as needed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone, comments, concerns, questions from the rest of the board, please?
And just to respond to the snow, there is definitely a lot of space behind the 3 spaces in the back of the site for storage. And the reality is it is again going to be professionally managed. And if it gets to a point that there is a concern, it's a concern to the tenants from a safety standpoint, it will be removed.
And I'm just trying to remember where the drainage structures are. Just following up on what Diab said about typically you don't do snow storage on top of drainage structures. Is that what you were?
That's what Brian said. I just,
Yeah.
you know.
I can't remember. I know one's towards the street and one's kind of backish.
Correct, yeah.
All right. So that seems okay.
Yeah.
So are there, I know when we met early, the last time we met, there were concerns about the design. And I know, Nick, you had brought up concerns about the street facing, what it looked on the streetscape. Do you think your concerns have been dealt
Yeah,
with?
I think that it looks like the back and forth and interaction with the ZBAs resulted in some changes I think are very positive. Because the orientation of the building is still kind of at an angle to the street, but just looking at the bay window and the ornamentation over the door, the double window in the attic area, it looks like it's improved adequately.
Okay. Any other comments on design?
I have comments, but
Please.
I don't want to go ahead of I Ching or Carrie.
I think that the street facade has really improved as well. I think that I remember it being fairly blank, and now it has a lot of articulation to it, and I think that's a great thing. The only thing I can think of is the greenery on Cross Street and the reduction of it by the ZBA. And the only reason I would think that would be maybe a safety issue. Like if you were turning, you can't see it. It's not that. But yeah, that's a curious.
Now he seemed to think that it would be better to see more building.
I would veer the other way and say, you know, privacy and sort of more greenery would be better. So I recommend less.
I like the idea of seeing the building. I think it defines the neighborhood as a residence, whereas kind of, and I don't know how tall these are, but And the idea of excessive fencing, even if they're greenery fencing, I think tends to divide and not be kind of welcome. One of the nice things about Winchester are still lots of parts that are not fenced, that the yards kind of are open. And I think that I don't know what the ZBA was thinking specifically, but to the extent that there are going to be a row of tall plants that are creating a barrier between the street and the building, I don't think I like that aesthetic as much.
I appreciate the comment. They are, it's not, they grow, I believe the most they grow is to 2 to 3 foot tall bushes.
Okay.
So,
That's the red twig dogwoods you're talking about.
No, they're the grow low sumac.
it's the sumac. That's what we were
Okay,
talking
yeah, the
about. was the
sumac, right.
So there are a number of and I presume from the name grow low.
Yeah, we looked them up and it said something like they go to 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, the picture looks nice the way it is, with the wall, and I don't see any.
There is no fence, by the way.
Right. I don't see any
No
shrubbery.
fence along the street.
No fence along the street.
I don't
Just,
see any shrubbery in the picture.
There's little red bushes right here.
Oh, that's it.
no, but they continue. There's more, if you look, there's more right here. On the actual landscape plan.
Right.
So they will continue beyond the maple or whatever that is.
I mean, my opinion is I think the picture looks better than, although I guess.
I mean, I'm in favor of the shrubs as on the drawing, because I think they seem to be low enough that people on the street will be able to look up and see the building. But
right, that's the concern.
Yeah, and I think they will. I mean, they're far enough away, I think, from the building. But it's also, I imagine that this could be a common area for the people living there.
That's true.
And they may want to.
We had talked about potentially putting in a seating area, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think they might want to have a little bit of, because the
Also
other
south
option is,
facing, so you get a lot of intense sun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where are the windows
Okay.
on here? That's what I was thinking about, I Ching.
Yeah.
Are the windows are north and east facing?
Then these windows are south facing, I
South.
thought.
But there's like a couple there. Like
Oh.
most-
One of those
Oh.
windows is in a garage. In fact, they both might be in the garage.
Yes, they are.
so the unit
One
window,
of them is in the garage, and then the other one, I believe, is in the stairwell. And like I said, we sort of added that bump out, which is the sprinkler room. And that's what we put the roof on, and we added the bay. And we added the windows in the attic as well. Those were all added to all of the units since probably the last time you saw it.
So Lynn, is the consequence of adding that sprinkler room, if I'm looking at the screen right now, it's to the left of that first
Yeah.
floor bedroom.
Yeah.
Does that mean that first floor bedroom doesn't have a window?
Oh, gosh, no. There,
No, the window's right here. Probably,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I can't really see windows. Oh, no,
oh,
I
yeah.
just,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
got a question.
It has to have a window, otherwise it's not a legal one bedroom.
and it faces
It's not a
west.
legal bedroom.
And it
It
would
has to
face
have a window
west.
and a closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, these are all really good questions. I mean, with regard to the landscaping, if people, if someone decides they're overgrown and they can't see the front, they will, take them out down the road.
So, with regards to the landscape plan, I'm wanting to ask questions about the west and the east boundary fencing. And it's hard to tell from the set of plans if the fencing on the east side goes all the way along the property, or does
Yeah.
it just go Uh,
It,
Yeah. Does it go?
it currently only goes part way back. It will go all the way back.
Okay, because that's what I would want to say is that.
Yes,
I think should
it
go.
currently, it does not today go all the way back and is not the prettiest fence you've ever seen. So this will have a new fence that is going to go the entire length of the property.
I did notice, and I don't know where I saw this, that there appears to be some, I don't know if it's fence or shed or whatever that crosses the property line, and I'm assuming that all of that will be addressed in the due diligence of the approvals.
A new shed or the old shed that's
No,
there
all of
today?
I remember doing the site walk and.
Yeah, everything's being raised. Are you,
Right, but-
are you saying someone else's shed is on the property?
Well, I thought that I saw that there are fences that are not on the property line when I did the site walk, and that I saw in some aerial view that there was some small, accessory structure. That,
There currently is 100% a shed towards the back of the property that will no longer be.
yeah, all right.
It will be raised as well as the house.
So the other question I had about fencing is on the west side where the land slopes down quite significantly. And I finally figured out that the west property line occurs at the top of that slope. So it does not show a fence there now, but what it does show is the private green spaces all being individually fenced. And so, and then it says that that the strip that remains is a shared green space. And that shared green space then flows immediately into that, I don't know, it's a pretty steep little slope to get to those houses and the veterinary clinic. So I mean, I don't want to see a fence against a fence because that would make it like this thing. I just want to know that the slope's not going to erode or people aren't going to fall down the slope or whatever. It's a pretty skinny little space.
Isn't the veterinary? I'm just trying to think. I thought the veterinary clinic was on the other side.
It's to the top of this diagram.
It is.
Sally,
Where it
is that
says
where your
shared green space.
That's where your concern is, at the top of this diagram, Sally?
Yes, the top of the diagram, the property line runs left to
Yep.
right, and it's got words above it, shared and private and planting and
Right,
paving.
right, but that is the
That's
side
where
with
the vet is.
That's where
And-
the vet is.
And
That's right,
I
okay.
did some street views to see where the current chain link fence is and where the property line appears to be with relative to the grading in GIS. And it does seem that the property line is at the top of the slope. So I'm not advocating for a fence there. I'm just raising the question about the shared green space and whether it would roll down. It's a random query, I guess. I don't know what I have a specific concern about. I certainly wouldn't want a fence along a fence. That would just be claustrophobic.
So the shared green space
I'm
is,
just looking at the site plan because I just want to make
It's
sure
really-
that.
it's,
So the fence is, the fence is as you see it here. It does run here and then it runs like that.
Yeah.
So this
For each
is
private garden.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know that. I think that this door here is more of a fire sort of, if you need to get out the back of the building sort of thing. I don't really think that anyone is envisioning that people are going to be using this back here. This is really
Just
fire exit, if you will.
all right. Well, that's good.
From
That's
the
good.
back of the properties. But it's, if you think of it almost like not as a rental apartment, but like as a condominium, everybody has their own little
That's right.
private,
Okay.
private area. But I think it's a good idea to have, those breaks in the fence in case God forbid something bad happens and people have to get out the rear rather than the front.
Oh, no, I think those little doors out the back the little gates or fence openings are really good. I mean, it gives people a way to, get out, like you said.
It also allows your guests to visit you in the back when you have a party, so they don't have to go through your house.
There you go.
Um,
There you go. That's
So,
pretty
so,
funny.
I just
So
want
the
to
only other
point
thing
out,
is,
yeah,
go ahead,
I,
Lynn.
yeah, we're running a bit late, so.
Okay, so I will stop.
No.
I'd make a motion to recommend favorable action on this Cross Street, 8789 Cross Street, with the planned landscape, actually, as in plan.
Okay. Is there a second?
So what I was going to say before Iching made her motion was that I had the benefit of a free peer review by my landscape architect husband, and he just pointed out two things.
Wait, hold on one sec, Sally. We are in the midst of the motion.
I
so
know.
so-
All right. So we have to have it seconded and then we would discuss. Is that how it works?
That's how it works, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, now we can discuss.
So I like the landscaping. My in-house free peer reviewer said that the plant that is labeled pan, which is Panicum virgatum heavy metal switchgrass, he said that needs full sun and it might not thrive in those courtyards. And that they might consider something substituting with a shade tolerant plant. And that the northern bayberry grows, it grows as a small tree, and it might become difficult to keep in size. And he suggested an alternate plant for that called inkberry shamrock. But I don't think that any of that is binding. It's simply sharing information from across the kitchen table.
Can you say the first one again? I got the second.
The one that has the code PAN. It's a grass that goes into the courtyards, and you can see them PAN.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's a sun-loving thing, and it might not do well. It's also very spilly and rambunctious. And I don't have a sense of how that will work with these smaller courtyards.
So I actually have one of those in my side yard, and it gets about 6 hours of sun a day. And I know that because my partner just measured it. And apparently it does not get rambunctious if it only gets 6 hours of sun a day.
Okay, so maybe that will work then.
And it's about 4 feet tall, and it's I think it's stabilized at like 2 or 3 feet across. So.
Okay, so it might not be an issue. That's great. And again, I'm not looking at this with a clear sense of the dimensions of these courtyards. So, and then the other one that I mentioned, Lynn, was the one that has it has a key of BAY, and it's the northern bayberry, which is a tree-ish thing. And he was saying that it's sort of a smallish ornamental tree, which means it has low branching. And he just said maybe he suggested another plant that is called inkberry shamrock, and I just put them out there.
I'm happy to bring that information back to Mario.
So look.
And then as far as the question of the visibility from the street, I think that it's been handled with a nice balance, which is to say having low shrubs at the top of the wall encloses that nice front green space, but it still allows people to see the building as they drive by. They're not driving through some jungly corridor where you can't see through.
Okay, are there any other more discussion on this, on the motions? Are we ready for a vote? I guess we're ready for a vote. So roll call vote, please. I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and Deeb says aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank
Uh,
you so much.
thanks,
Really
Lynn.
appreciate your time and your thoughts.
Yeah, good luck. And really happy to see this move forward.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Lynn.
And so now we turn to ZBA petition number 3998, and my apologies to the parties for the delay. Let me, so we have with us Richard Leaf. And then I know I'm going to make one of the owners,
Just say Manica.
Yeah, it's
Manica.
yes, it's Manica. Nice to meet you guys.
Good to meet you. And is there a is the person with screen name T Germanetto? Are you the, if you want to raise your hand, if you are the neighbor? You are? Okay, so I am going to make you co-host so you can unmute yourself. Okay, so we have before us ZBA petition number 3998. And I apologize, but I will not I will not do a justice to your name. So Sudharashini. Okay.
The last name is, that's my mother's name, and our last name is Tilly Umpalam.
Billy Empalam. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
This is for the property 31 Altamont Road, Winchester, Mass. Is seeking a special permit so as to be permitted to construct additions that will be located closer to side and rear property lines and permitted as of right. This property is in the RDB single residence zoning district and contains 6,351 square feet. So why don't we first go to our assistant town engineer and see if he has any comments to make on this property?
Thank you. The increase in impervious surface is less than 500 square feet. Therefore, they don't need to address stormwater management. The other aspect is they're not proposing any site civil work, relocating water, sewer, drainage, anything like that. So the engineering has no further comment on this project.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a non-conforming lot in a variety of things. The size is non-conforming. The setbacks are non-conforming. And we have with us both the proponent and their architect, Mr. Richard Leaf. So does the board want to just dive in and discuss? Do you want to have a presentation from the architect? How does the board want to deal with this?
I wouldn't mind whether you need us to present the project or not. That's your decision. I wouldn't mind us making just a minute or two of comments just as context for the project.
Mhm.
If you don't mind.
Board okay with that?
Yes.
And I think you all know me well enough. I could do a 5-minute presentation on the actual architecture, but that's not my intent right now. So basically, I just wanted to tell you, we've been working with Manica and her mother for about 1.5 years now. And just as a background, they've been, the two of them and Manica's father bought the house in 1989. So this is Manica's childhood home. In other words, that they've owned the house for 34, 35 years, whatever it is. Unfortunately, her father got sick and passed away about 3 years ago. But the impetus for this project is for the two of them, mother and daughter, and then potentially expanding family, to stay in the home and kind of age in place. And I think Manica has plans to hopefully raise a family there at some point in the near future. So that's, so there's a very interesting sort of almost family legacy connectedness to this house and property. So the moves that we're proposing in the architecture are to enlarge the kitchen, try to make the garage more functional and kind of the day-to-day entry more functional and create a master suite. And then also the possibility of a downstairs suite in case that's needed. So I just wanted to give you that intent. I'm happy to present the design, but I wanted to just give you that kind of background for the project.
Okay, thank you.
I guess one other thing I'll just say to you, if you look at the assessor's map, which is probably about the 9th or 10th page, it's one of the first 11 by 17s. In some ways, the story of this project and the story of why we're in front of you and ultimately the ZBA is because of the lot. The lot is a tiny corner lot, that fronts Albemarle and has a little sliver onto Wildwood. But if you then look at all of the next door neighbors, as you go down to 27 and 25 and 23 and 21, if you just go down to Albemarle, you can see all of the adjacent lots are all kind of twice as deep. So, that it's just, it's not anybody's fault. The house was built in 1932. I don't know when the lot was created. It's fundamentally a 90-year-old house, but that's what's been very difficult to kind of deal with, is just trying to deal with all of these nonconformities in that it's too close to Wildwood Street, it's too close to the rear yard, it's too close to the property line that's shared with number 27. So it's a very tricky, it's just a very small lot. And it's created a lot of problems for them to try to do relatively modest expansions to it.
Yes, I can share your pain with such a small lot, and it's less than 6,500 square feet. So, okay. So are there any comments or questions from the board? We do have an abutter who wishes to speak this evening. Does the board want to let that person speak and then chime in, or how do you want to deal with this?
I would like to hear from Mr. Germanetto.
Anyone else on the board have a preference?
Yeah,
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Germanetto, I think you are able to unmute yourself. I hope so. You had it there for a second. There you go.
There it is. Hi. All right, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and Manica and Richard, nice to see you again. Obviously, I just want to reiterate, I really appreciate the conversation we had today.
Mr. Germanetto, can you let us know where you live?
I apologize. Anthony Germanetto. I live at 27 Albemarle, and I am the nearest abutter. Side yard. I do want to start with, we find Manica and her mom to be wonderful neighbors. We knew her dad as well. Our intention here is not to prevent them from reaching their goal of maintaining the household and keeping it in the family and making it adaptable for her aging mom and an expanded family. And I think, from the drawings I saw, and having been in the home, there definitely appears to be some options there, no question. And although we haven't been here for 30 years, we did move here 7.5 years ago to raise our daughter here. And again, our interest is not to block this, but to also just express our concerns and look after our interests in not only the property, but the enjoyment of it. And our primary concern is the proximity of this project to the lot line and having it be a prominent view already outside of our living room, our formal living room where we do most of our entertaining. But it's like right now it's already pretty prominent, and they've been working on the project. We just learned of it and the specifics of it just Sunday. So we're really at a loss. My wife's traveling for work, so we haven't had a whole lot of time to discuss it. But what we did discuss is that we both agree we don't want to prevent them from doing something, but we would like to understand some mitigation steps and potential other options from having it come an additional 4 feet closer. We understand that they have a desire to put that bedroom suite above the garage. We get that. We don't have an issue with that per se. It's more so that already going up, it's going to be more prominent and as in our direct view, and having it be 4 feet closer, it just makes it that much more prominent. I do have photos, and if it was still light out, I'd kind of go to the window, but it is a prominent thing. And again, all we're asking is some consideration to not further the nonconformity, increase the nonconformity to what in essence would be about 5.5 feet from the property line. And we understand that the project is, we hope it goes forward. We'd love to maintain them as neighbors and going forward. And I hope that they can make the house work for them. But we really feel strongly that that extra space coming forward on top of the increase in height is substantial enough for us to kind of be in this uncomfortable position to, have, be here and not necessarily working against them, but, just trying to work with them to mitigate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Comments, questions from the board?
So I have a question about all the learning that we did around nonconformities. And was that section 355? Is that what that was?
It is indeed section 355.
Right. And I seem to remember something in there that says that if a nonconformity is extended along an existing line, and it's not, right? So like the 12.7 goes to 9.7, and that's on the back side along Wildwood. And then the let's see.
So
Sally, I think that the 12.7 is here, but it was 9.7 here, and it's that line 9.7 has been extended out.
And the key thing about 355, remember, is that this is not creating a new nonconformity. Am I correct in that, Mr. Leaf?
I mean, not to make this a global conversation, but just as a background, this is the project that I've mentioned to you all as 355 got considered by town council and then by town meeting. And I think I mentioned to you a number of times that we had a project that I thought was sort of the poster child for the various issues that was raised by that whole discussion. And just so you know, part of this design included a front entry portico and a small porch. And we eliminated that from the proposal because that was going to create a new nonconformity, which at least based on town meeting's vote back last month or April, I felt was then going to kick this into the variance conversation. But what's been said, what I Ching said is correct. On the back portion, the existing back wall of the garage is 9.7. And in a sense, we're extending that another 25 feet or so, just as a one-story piece, basically just to give 3 more feet of space to the first floor kitchen, so that we can fit in a center island. On the right side, it is pre-existing non-conforming, and it is true that we're going closer to the property line. But my understanding of all the discussions that have been had by everybody over the last 6 months or whatever it is is that this is a special permit because it's already pre-existing non-conforming, and that's, so it's only if, my understanding is, it's only if you create a new non-conformity that the variance sort of pathway gets kicked in.
That is my understanding as well. And I know that town council did not, in his opinion, I believe I'm quoting correctly, that there isn't a degree of nonconformity. It's that you have a nonconformity on the right side, it's less than the required setback, and that when you talk about whether moving into that setback more than it already is, it's not a question of increasing the nonconformity. It's a question, because it's already nonconforming, it's a question of the impact of that.
Yeah.
Rather than, so that's, so 355 comes in here, but I think it's, there is no new nonconformity, so.
So I will say a couple of more things. I mean, this is, quite honestly, a very challenging lot and challenging situation. And the 4 feet that we're proposing to build closer to the, I'm going to call it the right side property line, to the property line shared by number 27 Albemarle. That's not a decision. We've gone through a lot of options, a lot of kind of variations on this, trying to find what we thought was sort of what I would call the best version of the design without going crazy expanding further. And the reason for doing this is, right now, if you look at the photograph of the front of the house, it looks like it's a 2-car garage. I don't know if you can scroll back, but it's essentially a 16-foot door. But the actual width of the garage inside is only 17 feet. You can't park 2 cars inside a garage in 17 feet. So part of what we're trying to do with the 4 feet is to give a couple of extra feet to the inside of the garage, and then also make that little notch which is kind of their family entry off the driveway, try to give another 1.5 feet or so, or 2 feet to that as well. So we're trying to add 4 feet so that we can make the garage marginally functional as a 2-car garage, give enough space so that if there's ever a need for a handicap ramp or a wheelchair ramp, and this is what I've been told they literally just went through 3 years ago with Menika's father. So it's real. Like, they just experienced their father getting sick and, needing to get carried into the house. And so that's the reason for the 4 feet. If we had 25 feet to the right side property line, we would be enlarging the garage, probably 10 feet. We'd probably be making the inside of the garage 23 feet wide, 24 feet wide. I'd be making the actual family entry wider. But I just wanted to communicate that the 4-foot add was not a light decision. It was a carefully studied, and I understand the neighbors' concerns, and I understand the ZBA might have, I understand that it's not an easy ask. I totally recognize that.
I do think so too, Richard. I think that your ask is going to be very difficult after coming out of town meeting and knowing how the ZBA feels about this. And the backside proposed addition doesn't seem like an issue because it is an additional 3 feet in the back, 1 story. Whereas you're asking for 4 more feet, getting closer to the neighbor and a 2-story addition. And I do feel for you. I think that's a very difficult thing. And I wonder, if the solution might be to, it's a 2-car garage, and I think that is a pretty luxurious thing. And I wish, we all had the space for that, but it might just become a 1-car garage issue. Because I'm finding it would be very difficult to just after all that discussion of town meeting to be able to do that. And I feel for the applicant very much. I'm sorry for your loss and the difficulty in making this work, but that particular right side is going to be very difficult. And when you do that, I would say you need to add a site plan of landscaping to help mitigate that for sure. But I mean, I see the solution as being just a 1-car garage with a 4-foot ramp in some ways, but I just find that this will be a very difficult fight, uphill fight.
So my reading of what happened at town meeting might be off. But I mean, the concern over 355 was about adding new nonconformities, which this project does not. So I don't know
Increases in existing, isn't that what it does?
it, but the key about 355 was that it was all about whether the addition of a new nonconformity should proceed with a variant, without a variance, and with just a special permit.
Right, right.
And so this would fall under, I think, you know, I heard from town meeting members who felt that it should go with a variance. I heard from town meeting members who felt that the language provided by town council was not sufficient, but that they felt that it should go through a special permit. I don't know how to read town meetings concerns, but again, since this does not introduce a new nonconformance, I think we have to, I personally don't know that this would raise that sort of a, this falls, in my mind, this goes back to the standard discussions we always have about when you're putting something close to the lot line, how it impacts the neighbor. And I think that's my concern. And so this is a horribly complicated lot. And I don't know, for instance, whether a vegetative buffer would help if the 4 feet is something which, you know, the necessity for a 2-car garage is such that, you know, I don't know if it would be possible to create a vegetative buffer which would provide the screening, considering that there doesn't seem to be any sort of a buffer right now. You're just trading, you know, a clear view of the to the house with something which could be, you know, put in some arborvitae and it'll be 15 feet tall, and I don't know if the neighbor would like that, but that's possible. That's, you know, that's another alternative. I mean, I guess my concern is that it is really close to the neighbor. And
The
5
rest
feet,
of this property, I mean, the rest of this neighborhood is a 12-foot or 10-foot setback?
15.
15, thank you.
All 15. And I do want to mention, there is, we took a measurement today, there is 33 foot 8 inches currently between the garage and 27 Albemarle. So and that's not to say that the current owner of 27 Albemarle or a future owner of Albemarle, 27 Albemarle, couldn't expand into their extra space. But I guess what I'm trying to communicate is, in a sense, the RDB sort of says 15 feet to your property line. So between two houses, you want 33 feet of, you want a minimum of 30 feet of space. And if we did enlarge this by 4 feet, we would be, I think, 29 foot 6 inches or 29 foot 8. I mean, I'm not trying to justify that. I'm just trying to make, the way Albemarle was laid out, or the houses were laid out, they all tended to be built further away from Wildwood. So there is a little bit of luck in this situation, that even though I think the neighbor is, understandably concerned, at least number 27 is away from 31, if you know what I mean. Like it's further away from Wildwood Street for, various reasons. So there is a little bit of space between, and we did propose to the owner today that we would do, arborvitae or horn blowers or, whatever. I'm not sure that addresses their concern, but we're certainly happy to do whatever landscaping is wanted.
yeah, it looks like a number of the lots are non-conforming just based on setbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think
even
all
though
these
they're
houses
large
were-
lots.
I think these were all pre-World War II and then maybe a little bit of post-World War II. I mean, it's all 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Except for number 30, another thing, I mean, again, this is a global discussion, but I think there's a pattern of development in town that houses that are right on busy streets tend to need to be bigger, more elaborate to kind of retain their real estate value because they are on the busy street. And so the perfect example is the house right across the street at number 30. I don't know, I can show you photographs of it, but you've all probably driven by it. It's got sort of 2.5 garage. It's one of, there you go. I mean,
Oh, yeah, this one, right.
This is a big old house and its garage faces Wildwood. The driveway is off of Albemarle, but the garage doors are facing. That was built big, I'm sure for development and profit reasons, but I think it also needed to be built big because it is on a busy street.
Right.
So, I mean, so that I think the homeowners feeling some of that pressure as well, that they, it is walk to town, which is an asset. It's a really nice neighborhood, and all that, but they are on a busy street. And so they kind of got to make it nice if they're going to spend, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. So it's a very tricky, I can see both sides of this. And I think there's a lot of, like I said earlier, I think this is the poster child for all of the issues that we were all talking about for the last 6 months with the zoning regs.
Carrie,
Yeah.
Nick, do you want to have something? Do you have something you wanted to add?
The first thing I thought of when I looked at the plans was it's amazing how much house you got without changing the footprint. I mean, by very much at all. It's a really remarkable job with that. We can't sort of count the abutter's property in the calculation. That's just not fair to the abutter. But I understand what you're saying. And Mr. Germanetto, you had sort of said you didn't want to block I know that's partly being a kind neighbor. And you mentioned mitigations and we've mentioned arbor vitae as a possible kind of a green fence, is that something that seems amenable, or what did you have in mind when you said that? Because this would be 2-story right on the property.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the chance. So I absolutely, I would say that, I would ask that, well, I would prefer landscaping be part of whatever we do here. I think that would help. And my first interest would be to keep it to the line it's at and not come closer. I don't know if you could see that, but this is from our window. I don't know. I mean, this is from my living room window. This is the 1-story garage that's 4 feet further than he's proposing. And it's pretty prominent looking out that living room window.
Yeah.
And then if I go ahead and move that 4 feet closer and add a wall, a second floor, I'm going to be looking at basically a big white house. My wife and I grew up partially, part of my youth was in Malden. She grew up all her youth in Everett. We grew up with neighbors being so close, all you could see out your window is their homes and hear them eating dinner and their alarms going off. So Winchester is we, I guess we didn't expect to, have a situation where we could be looking at another wall out the window. And I think that's what the setbacks are for. And again, I totally respect, and I don't want to seem insensitive to their concerns about and their goals of keeping the mom in the house and making it available. I will be honest, I had the same thoughts as what board member Scott had mentioned about the 1-car garage. And I think I even shared that today in our discussion we had informally in the yard. Maybe that's the way it has to. I mean, that would be ideal. But you could still create a situation where there's access for wheelchair and not expand. I'm not asking to not expand, to not build up and do what you got to do, but just to consider that, yes, I get it, but why is my concern about it being in that much of visual impact less of an issue than wanting a second car in the garage? I guess that's, you know. a
I
point
would,
to make.
yeah, I would like to hear, so Nick.
Thank
One
you.
of yeah, Nick, if you have any comments, and then I would like to hear from Monica as to how she sees her needs met by that particular structure. But Nick, if you have any,
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my arms around this. I guess Sally or anyone, if you've seen anything in the regs that would warrant a no position on this. I mean, I'm trying to get an anchor to
well, this
grapple
would,
with it.
yeah, so you would need to go to the special permit regs. And so you're looking at the criteria for a special permit, which is 9 point something or other. So, you know, that hopefully you've got that.
It's
bookmarked.
9.4.2 is the criteria.
I mean, I like the design. I appreciate the homeowner's desire to fix the garage, as it were. The visuals are nice. But it's,
Well,
so I'm just trying to get an idea of if there's anything kind of overriding that I should consider in terms of the
well, why
zone.
don't you take a look at
Yeah.
if you don't have any particular question right now,
Yeah.
if you take a look at 9, for some reason my internet, although I can do Zoom. I
So
can't
in
do-
9.4.2 criteria for special permits, there's 8 criteria. And the ones that occur to me as possibly relevant are well, I can say it's not traffic flow and safety, and
Yeah.
it's not utilities and public service. So number 4 is impacts on neighborhood character, including the extent to which the building forms and materials are compatible with the scale and character of the buildings in the neighborhood. And to Nick's point, I think that architect Leaf has done a nice job of designing these modifications. And then also under 4, that the architectural features add visual character to the neighborhood, dormers, lintos, bay windows, etc., and the patterns of the windows. Number 5 is adequacy of proposed screening and buffering. And this is what I'm hearing Mr. Germanetto talk about, that if this were to be approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals, he would very much want it to be covered by a green buffer, is what I'm hearing. And that would work towards the definition of adequacy. And then I don't see anything for number 6, which is impacts on the natural environment, changes in topography, installation of retaining walls, or removal of trees. It doesn't seem like that large tree that is on your property would be impacted by this.
I don't see it on the recent photograph, so I have a feeling that
That large tree has been removed.
yeah,
That large tree's gone.
Yeah. Okay.
The tree behind that's big tree that you see there, that still remains on the property.
Great. And
That's right, that tree right there.
And then impacts on historic resources. So, I mean, the house, you said it was built in the late 30s or early 30s?
1932.
And has the historical commission been asked whether
You're the first group. DRC is tomorrow night and historic is Monday night.
okay, because I mean,
And-
technically it falls within the pre-1940, which is, as I understand it, the definition of a historic building in our town.
Yeah, but I would be I'd be floored if anybody in the historic commission deemed this garage to have historical significance.
I kind of feel the same way.
I'd be surprised.
I mean, if you know, I close up my business tomorrow if this garage is historically significant.
Well, I'll
So
be
he'll
honest, I didn't realize that a Garrett Colonial was in the 30s, because that's what it looks like to me, but
Yeah, it does look like a sixties house, but it's,
It does have the Garrison
Garrison,
Colonial
yeah.
second floor projects out above, beyond the first, cantilevers out a foot. It only does that on the front. It doesn't do it on the back, by the way, but you're right, that is surprising for a 1930s.
Yeah,
Maybe
Yeah.
it was maybe it was a cape that was added, it was a top added on.
oh, it might have been, that's
yeah,
right.
it's possible, yeah.
Yeah, it does
Yeah,
look.
I mean, I think so I think that, I would like to hear from Monica how the, we've heard from the neighbor about his concerns, and Monica, I apologize for saying your name wrong. If you could give us a little bit of how you feel, why you feel that the width of this is required. I mean, that seems to be the big sticking point, is the extra 4 feet, not the second story, but the extra 4 feet. And if you could give us some insight as to why you feel that is vital to success of this project.
Yeah, I can give you that. We've lived in this house for 34 years, and we've always had sort of like a 1.5 garage, but it's not, guys, it's not about the garage and the number of cars that we can fit in there, but it's about, number one, accommodating the comfort of my mother as she ages. As Richard said at the start of this call, I lost my father 3 years ago. I'm the only child and the only person that can take care of my mother moving forward. And I am also about to start my own family, and I would like to give the same opportunity I had from myself to get the education from VO and from Ambrose. I want to give my children that same opportunity as well. And so this is going to become a generational home. This is a home that my parents are immigrants. They came to this country. They purchased this home with their hard-earned money. And I want to be able to continue that for my own children to come. We've spent 34 years here, and I want to be able to make sure that my mother has, right now in this house, we have 1 bathroom in the top of the upstairs. And that's the bathroom with a tub that was built in 1930s that is still being used by us, that my father fell in. And was starting his demise to him dying 3 years ago, because he fractured 2 of his ribs. And so and that bathroom is so small that there's not much that we can do there. Our master bedroom that I'm sitting in today does not have a bathroom in it. And so that's why, as my mother ages, and I also lost my grandmother a year later after that as well, I know that as you get elderly, you need to have your own place to have, a clean area to have a bath in. And my mother doesn't have that today. So that's why we're looking to create the master suite on top of the bathroom. It's not about the number of cars that we can have in there, but it's really about creating a nice space for my mother as she ages, so that I can continue to take care of her. And I can also expand my family and live with my mother and my future children to be able to take care of her. So that's the reason why I'm looking, and that 4 feet does matter to me. I understand my neighbor's point of view as well. But to be honest, they have 1 living room that they look out of 1 window that looks into the house, that they see that same view today. And they have a dining area that they sit in today, and they're looking into the side of our house. I mean, there's just 2 windows there, and they're not using the property between my house and their house. It's not like there's a pool or they're using that property, right? So, and we've lived in this, and it's kind of like Richard said at the start, it's kind of crap, right? It's no one's fault, but our property our plot line is super small. It's abnormally small for like the whole entire street. And we've managed for 34 years in this plot. We've done the best we can with the plot that we've had. We've painted inside our house. We've done things to live for 34 years. But at this point, I want to be able to take care of my mom and my future children and give them the same opportunity that I had. And this is why I'm asking for the expansion of the additional 4 feet. That would make a really big impact to my mother and taking care of her as she ages. And there's no one else to take care of her. And this is the reason why I've come in front of the board to ask there's some understanding and, in my situation today.
Yeah, thank you. So we are,
Diab, we have Mr. Germanetto has raised his hand. I don't know if you are able to see that.
I did, but I want to bring us to the fact that it's now 9:30.
I would
And-
like an opportunity because I do have a couple points of conversation.
Excuse me, Mr. Germanetto.
Sorry, I
understand that.
apologize, sir.
Yeah, no, I understand that,
Apologies.
but we are now approximately a half an hour past what we had
I
allotted
understand.
for this conversation. I know we started 10 minutes late, but now we are, so I need to know if the board has enough information to come to a decision. If not, then we can continue this discussion, but I need to check in with the board to see whether or not they have enough information to come to a decision, again, as always, we have three things before us. We can vote to recommend favorable action, recommend
did it?
unfavorable action.
The Historic
or-
Commission and who else?
I'm
Who
sorry?
are they scheduled?
Design review.
Design review and
I'd like to
historical.
hear a design review to see if there's an alternative that doesn't require that, like what, I don't know if they'll look at what could be done without the 4 feet or what's essential. I'd be curious.
So,
I think looking at
let
this
me
plan.
just finish
and-
my sentence, please.
Sure.
We have three options, which are to vote to recommend favorable, recommend unfavorable, or take no action. So, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm done talking. So the rest of the board. Carrie, you sound like you would like to postpone a decision until the design review comes back to us.
I will reiterate that I'm really impressed with how much they've done with as minimum impact on the footprint as possible. So I just want to make sure that we've sort of thought through with a bit more counsel, the neighbors' concerns about the footprint and how, whether there's an alternative that we are overlooking. Iching already suggested.
Yeah, I can see an alternative. I think that I think this whole wing can be reduced by 4 feet and it would still work in the way that they intend with a primary suite that works and possibly shrunk a little bit and without so much space, but still working. So in addition with the lower floor, the garage being what it is in its original footprint, but being 1.5 with a ramp. So I think that, having it be already, 9.6 instead of 15, and moving it from 15 to 5.6, as I think that's, and adding another floor on top of that is a lot to ask here. So, I would recommend favorable action with the footprint of the right side remaining the same. That would be my my motion.
Let's
But that
see.
requires-
I'm sorry, excuse me, and adding screening, green screening to this side.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't really need to, I feel like I don't need to hear design reviews opinion on that, in looking at this and the solutions that have, I think that, the master suite is quite lovely. Of course, it would be lovely to have more space, but in light of some of the struggle of the dimensional shrinking, I do think that staying within the footprint would be advisable here.
Okay, Sally or Nick?
I'm looking at the diagram and without the 4 feet, the master suite would be smaller than the other bedroom. And I'm having a tough time.
You would then shrink certain things, right? Like the closet would get a little bit tighter and the foyer might not be 6 by 6, but a little bit tighter. Just all those things would just shrink a little bit. That's for Mr. Leaf to figure out.
He already offered that up.
Right, but so so Nick, what I'm trying to get at is, do you feel like you have enough information to make a decision, or do you need more information?
I probably could come to a decision if that's where we're at.
Well, I need to find out sort of where we're going on this.
Wait, procedurally, is that a motion that sort of wraps up our decision on this property? If we say yes, but not with the 4 feet, we don't, because they would have to redesign. So do they come back, or that's our vote?
So I think it's kind of weird to say we accept the design only if you take 4 feet off of it.
Right.
I mean, I think what you could say is that, you could say, we're okay with the addition in the back, but not the extension of the garage. It would be kind of a split vote. It could end up that the board doesn't actually come to a decision, but simply passes along comments.
Is that a realistic possibility? I mean,
we can do
this...
anything we want.
So I could make a motion to recommend favorable action with recommendations for it to remain in the same footprint and some green screening.
Okay, I just want to.
Same footprint as the garage, but the proposed addition on the back is as drawn.
So one
favorable action, because that's not what's proposed.
Yeah, so let me I just want to go through the one remaining member of the board I haven't asked is if they're ready to make a decision, and that's Sally. Do you need more information, or do you?
I would actually agree with Carrie that it would be very nice to hear what the Design Review Committee has to say about this. They have sage and insightful comments, and I would like to hear them. This is, to me, a really difficult question, as Richard has said. And I'm very sympathetic to increasing existing nonconformities, which I think this is. It's increasing an existing nonconformity. It's not creating a new one. But this is the garage is non-conforming in its present state, and it would be further so with the 4 feet. So yes. I'd like to hear Design Review's analysis and recommendations.
So my issue with that in some ways is that we're all recommending to the ZBA based on our sort of domain rather than, hearing from others. And
that's
then
right.
filtering through us to the ZBA. We're not the primary in that way. We have what we need to deal with which is the zoning here.
So our purview is the zoning, not the design.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult question.
2 special permits, a permit to add the space to the back and a permit to add the space to the side.
That would probably, you'd have to split it into 2 separate projects. And I think that would be really difficult to design, because if you get one project permitted for the back, but you don't get the one to the side, then you essentially have to redo the design to accommodate just what's in the back.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to point out, I Ching, in that your motion saying it should stay on the same footprint, I just want to point out that the garage is actually being moved forward. They're actually, so the same footprint would not include, so it not only moves to the side,
I didn't see that.
Forward. It's in the drawing. If you
It's
go
right
on
here.
page,
So the existing footprint is in this dotted line.
Oh
And
my
then
God,
the new
okay.
one is here. in the
so
solid.
it's moving forward. So I would suggest that, I just
All right,
wanted to
forget
point
it.
out that requesting that it stay on the same footprint would mean they wouldn't be able to move forward and take advantage of the space in front of the garage. So I would
I
just
see.
be
So then
careful
it would
about the
then
language.
be, okay, got it. So is my motion on the table right now or no?
You've made the motion.
It feels like the motion is a no. to me. I mean, it feels like it's a no.
Yeah, it seems like we're saying favorable action to not do the project.
Right.
Well,
It feels like it's unfavorable action if
Well,
we're not.
yeah, and I just, we have a motion on the table, which, and so we can either second the motion or we can be withdrawn, but we can't really discuss it until it's been seconded. So that's what Roger's rules tells us. So I Ching's motion is to recommend favorable action as long as the garage is on the same footprint.
Yep.
No, as long as the right side is on the same.
The right side is the garage.
Right.
Okay, the right side is on the same footprint as
It's just the right wall, the right wall.
The side wall of the garage not change its distance from the lot line.
okay,
Correct.
so that
Correct.
it doesn't go into the side setback any.
Correct.
Okay, so that is the motion is to endorse with the condition that the side setback remains as is. Is there a second for that motion? And there is no second for that motion. So do we have another motion?
I can't even begin to formulate it.
Well, what are
Okay.
your thoughts as to where you wish?
I
where
mean,
you-
I think it's I don't know. I mean, I agree with the spirit of I Ching's proposal or motion, but not the letter of it. So that's why I didn't second. So I think I don't know. I'm gonna wait this one out.
So if there's no motion,
You said one of our choices is to take no action.
that is exactly what this would imply, is that we are taking no official action if there is no motion. And I should note for all in the viewing area that I am forbidden from proposing a motion or seconding a motion. So just so you know. So there is no motion to delay until we get DRC. I'm just throwing out, I'm trying to, if no one is, we can simply decide that.
I'm okay moving to continue until we have comments from Design Review and Historic Commission. It'll give us all time to think about it.
Is there a second for that?
Well, I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we want to discuss?
Yeah, again, I would say, I mean, we have what we need in terms of, I mean, ways to decide this. I mean, that historic and design have their own criteria. We have ours, which is 9.5 and 1 through 8.
It would be nice to have additional time, maybe.
9.5.
Why? This was,
That is maybe what I'm, yeah, I mean, I guess we're sort of suggesting, I guess there's not gonna be, so I just don't know if I've seen enough of these play out yet. Like, if we go through with the motion, like, do we see this project again? Or if we approve a motion to approve the project, but without 4 feet, like, what's the step after that?
If the board wants to vote to bring this back before the board, it can. I will say that my personal preference is not to revisit this. I think that we have enough information.
Maybe we can
But-
just not
but-
take action, not take
But
any
the
action.
motion before the board right now is to continue this hearing until after the Design Review Committee has issued their report. And I should note that this is going to come up before the ZBA in July. So if the board wants to spend probably another half hour to 45 minutes on this project in lieu of anything else we want to talk about, then that would be I would recommend against continuing this to another time. I
Can I-
agree with I Ching that our concern is, with the zoning, with the impact on the neighbors' properties, with the understanding of, providing, a question of what is the balance between providing flexibility to a homeowner on an incredibly non-conforming lot versus the needs of the neighbors for enjoying their setbacks. So that's all. But I think those are within that's what the planning board should be looking at.
That's our purview, right?
And I think that's where I stand on it. But so if the board is.
I mean, can I make a motion to take no action, or is that?
We have a motion on the table that.
I can withdraw my motion. Can I withdraw my motion, or once it's seconded, is it like out of?
Well,
I can withdraw my second if that helps.
At this point, we can unravel the motion, I believe. So the motion's withdrawn.
It's withdrawn.
Okay, so Nick, you want to put a motion for?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to take no action on this proposal.
Okay, is there a second? We have no action to take no action.
Right, so it's because the points that you and I Ching have made about purview and what is in our purview compels me to think that we should address those factors or those matters that are within our realm of decision making. And on the surface of it, notwithstanding the family history and the family connection to this house and this lot, on the surface of it, the right side expansion of the garage and new second floor, is not in the spirit of our zoning. And that's what we have the authority and the responsibility to make comments and vote as we wish. It makes me sad to say that. I mean, it makes me think that Winchester has generous setbacks, is what it makes me think, especially compared to Malden and Everett.
You bet. That's what we both did.
Yeah.
And the school system.
So we don't have a second for Nick's motion. So.
Which was to take no action. We have no action to take no action.
Right, so we can simply, someone could propose, we've had a motion to continue, which has been withdrawn. We've had a motion to approve with condition, without
the 4 foot,
without increasing the into the setback, and that was, I don't believe that got a second. We've got a motion to take no action, which no one has seconded. So I'm not sure. I think, is there another option?
If you Ching's motion is sort of like that can be our final thing, and it doesn't sort of create a mess of like they redesign and come back and we start over or something like that, then I don't know how to go back to that minute, but I would probably second that.
We can go back to that minute. I mean, I think one could ask the question, what is preventing extension of the garage further forward to provide more space? That's I'm not looking at the layout of the interior, but looking at the square footage.
right?
And so the question is, would it be possible to pull the garage forward? Now, this is something that typically we don't like to see, because we like the garage to be secondary to the main structure. And so the idea of pulling the plane of the garage forward seems to go against that. I do want to point out that this board did approve a project which actually would create a new nonconformity not too long ago, where we decided that it was okay to put a set of stairs going to the basement within a 15-foot setback in order to allow the homeowner to put a extension on the back. And that was the only way that it was felt they could provide the secondary egress from the basement. So I think that, so there's we're
But
in
that's not
a,
equivalent though.
pardon?
That's what?
That was, a stairwell to the basement instead of a two-story.
Right, I think that
I
they're very different.
agree. I am merely pointing out that this board has pushed the boundaries before.
Mhm.
And
Right, I'm
know-
very sensitive to the neighbor's concern. And the thing that you just touched on about changing the shape of the garage addition so that it takes more advantage of the driveway depth and not the lack of width of the property line is the kind of thing that I would want to hear what the design review committee has to say. Because I know design is their purview and zoning is our purview. But it might be a way to resolve the problem.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Sally, sorry.
No, I'm done, Nick.
So
I'm
in
beginning
regards to the
to,
neighbors, the neighbor was saying that things would be okay if there was a green screening and that it was stayed within the right setback. So
I'm
if
beginning to warm up to ET's proposal. Given the fact that it's after 9:45, and do we really want to spend another half hour on this?
No.
And also take into consideration the comments in the discussion. Whether it is within the spirit of the zoning, it's a difficult call.
Well, the lot itself is not within the spirit of the zoning
Right.
because it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot. So we can't forget that.
Yeah.
so I can make my motion again.
Okay.
Okay. I make my motion to recommend favorable action with conditions that the right setback remains the same and that there is some green screening incorporated.
And so I feel now able to second that motion after our lengthy discussion. But it's in the context of wanting to hear from the design review committee about how they might reconfigure the architecture. So it can't be done, Richard?
I'm sorry to say this, but I think what's been said a few minutes ago by other people is correct. I mean, I don't want the design review committee redesigning this project other than if they want to make comments about roof lines or the exterior. It's not up to the design review committee to relay out a bedroom or a bathroom or a
Yeah, no,
I think if, I do want to say something that I think is really fundamental here, though. I'm going to wear forgive me for saying this, I'm going to wear my Larry Murray hat for a second, which is that by definition, anytime an architect or a designer is in front of all of these groups for zoning relief, it's because the project is too close to a property line. And almost every time a project is too close, relative to the setback, and every time that happens, the immediate neighbor is affected, and usually in a negative way. And so I've always understood, and I'm absolutely, I think Menica and Tony have a relationship, and I think everybody wants them. At the end of the day, whatever gets built, I think, it's really important that everybody can leave their front door and look each other in the eye and be happy with one another. But at the same time, I want to say that I want to be careful that you're not setting a precedent that one neighbor, because the language is the neighborhood. The affected neighbor is always going to be affected in a negative way by an addition that's too close to a property line. So I don't want Tony to be unhappy. I certainly don't want Menica.
I think you do.
But at the same time, I guess I want to caution this group, and I'm going to have to probably say this to all the other groups. One neighbor should not be driving the bus, I don't think. Their opinion is really important, but I think you guys should vote. Like, you should say whatever, like, the design review committee will say whatever. They'll say historical.
Okay, that's true.
I
There-
really
I
want you to
actually
say
don't
something.
necessarily.
I need
think
to say
that-
something here if I
Okay, no,
could,
well,
please.
I need to take control of this meeting again.
You got
I'm
it.
sorry.
You got it.
I think that, I think we do need to take, we do, did we have a motion on the table? We had a motion, I think, from each.
And I think I seconded it.
And we had a seconded it. And so I need to, we have a motion. It's up to the board to discuss that motion and to vote on it. I think I have certainly heard, I have enough information to make the decision.
I got something to say.
So,
No.
does the board wish to continue discussion, or does the board wish to move to a vote?
Discuss.
Oh,
Okay, well, I don't hear a move to discuss.
Nick, did
So-
I hear you say discuss?
no, I
No.
said both.
Eaching said vote.
I mean, if someone wishes to discuss, please say something. Otherwise, let's move to a vote. And so the vote is to reiterate, the vote is to recommend favorable action with the condition that the right side setback remains as is. And that's,
And with green screening.
and with green screening, I apologize, and with green screening. So let's go roll call vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I am voting against that. So we have a recommendation to the board, to the ZBA, 401. Sally, hopefully you can capture the complexity of this discussion.
I will, with the benefit of the recording that you'll send me promptly.
Yes, I think this is,
Because I write, just so Menica knows that I write, and Tony, I write up the discussion and the vote, and I
Okay.
send it to the zoning board of appeals as your loyal clerk.
No, I appreciate that very much. I would have loved to have correct something that was absolutely incorrect because
Well,
it
but
was
we are-
pertinent, and I know I can't do that right now.
yeah, because we're actually.
I know that, and I appreciate all your time and your consideration. I really do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Can we adjourn?
Well, it's up to the board. We
Yeah,
have
I
the
think
only
that we
two
need
things
to,
I wanted to, yeah, I just wanted to point out the two things we had on our things was talk about MBTA 3A and North Main Street. I'll just give you a very quick update on
Thank you
that.
all.
Thank you,
Oh.
Tony.
Thank you, Tony. The quick update is that this MHP, Mass Housing Partnership, has come forward to, they're going to pick up the rest of the bill from Goldson et al. So that town does not have to. And I actually, if I'd have read my email correctly, I would have been able to tell you that last time, but I missed it. Sorry, I'm looking for my power supply. My laptop is about to shut off because I unplugged it somehow. So that is why we have extra monies if we want to do publicity. So MHP is picking that up. We met with the consultants yesterday on the technical report. Sally and I will be meeting with the consultant on Thursday, going through the zoning. So the maps, there are still issues with the maps. So we're not going to get them out yet because they are, some of them are very difficult to understand. And so we need to get those clarified. We are going to, hopefully, I asked y'all last week if you could meet next Tuesday for the North Main Street, so that we could continue. We have approximately $7,000 left on our contract with them this year. They would love to be able to come and talk to us next Tuesday. So I would love to.
13th, right?
13th. So I know, Nick, you've said you were able to make it. I'm able to make it. I'm still waiting to hear from the rest of you.
What time?
I
It
said
would,
yes.
it would be the same, it would be our standard time.
I can
I
do
might
it.
have I might have a 6:30 to 7, but I should be able to, are we gonna do it by Zoom, I guess, because
It
they're
will be,
remote
it
as
will
well?
definitely be by Zoom.
Okay,
So that
So
would be.
7:15 by Zoom on the
Would be
13th.
7:15, 7:30 after our standard
Okay.
updates. So if that's okay, I will tell them to go forward with that. We're also starting to talk about the contract for our next fiscal year, which will take us into Springtown meeting with our zoning. And so Sally and I will be sitting down with them next Tuesday to work out the details on that.
Wait,
So
we're
those-
sitting down with form in place to work out the details? Or you're
Yes.
talking 3A?
No, I'm talking about form in place.
And we're meeting with them next Tuesday.
Yeah, we're meeting with, you and I have a meeting with them next Tuesday morning.
Oh, yes, the 10 a.m. to talk
And
about.
then, and
Okay,
we
good,
have a
yes.
meeting, and then we're all gonna meet on Tuesday evening where they're gonna lead us through what we asked them to do.
Thank you.
And then I think the only other thing,
Right.
I think that's about it. That's all I got for you.
Okay, great.
So at this point, if anyone would like to adjourn, please make a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I seconded.
Gotta fall asleep over the motions here. Okay, roll call vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
I say aye as well. Thank you all. Thanks to our what are you today, Nancy? You're our recording secretary today, Nancy. Thank you very much. Thanks to
Every
Assistant-
week.
Thanks to Assistant Town Engineer. I was about to promote you to Manager Brian Manter. Thanks to WinCam for recording us. Thanks to Richard Lee for coming from us from the Chamber of Commerce. And thanks to you all in TV land. We will see you in a week.
Thanks.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Record.